Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Get Wealthy with me. I am Sherron, the Modern Savvy CPA. And today I have really she's a new friend. I would say new because I've known her I've known her a little over a year, but we totally hit it off. She is of my culture. She's Indian, but I am West Indian and she's East Indian, and we'll probably explain a lot of that to you. But this is Purnima, and she is an entrepreneur, financial analyst, badass wife, everything that you can think about. And I was dying for her to be on the show, and now she decided that she was going to do it. She's nervous, so
Thank you for that wonderful introduction, Sharon. I'm happy to be here. I'm excited and I can't wait to do this today.
awesome. Awesome. So I want to first kind of tell everybody about you, okay?
Okay.
And I'm going to let you surprise me and bring in some answers. So
Okay.
first, we're going to talk about how we met.
Yeah.
So we met because Purnima and her husband owns a restaurant in our area, Wellington, Royal Palm area here, and it's called Masala Matra.
Yep. Masala Mantra Indian cuisine on Southern in the Costco Plaza.
And it's super awesome. Her food is, I am a West Indian, so a lot of our Indian food is kind of watered down compared to native Indians. So I loved her food because it's like really fusiony, and it's like my favorite Indian restaurant. So anybody that's listening here in our area in Palm Beach County, you guys have to come and visit her restaurant right here. And we met because she's chamber member, a member of a Wellington chamber, and I was introduced to her, and we totally hit it off, didn't we?
Yeah. I don't even remember like a formal introduction. We met and we just clicked.
Yes, it was a
It was
total click.
just a total click. Over maybe I think a glass of wine though.
Yeah, I had wine. She's not a wine drinker.
No, I'm not. I like to have a glass of whiskey or bourbon just on ice. And
Yes.
that drives her nuts.
Yes, like I look at her and I'm getting drunk, but maybe one day
Yes.
she'll teach me how to drink like that.
Yes, I will keep you updated on that. Definitely. The day I have that, I'm going to record it.
Yes. So she is really an entrepreneur, and in my opinion, restaurant is a hard business. Being in the food business is a labor of love. So what are your thoughts with you guys just celebrated your first anniversary in the restaurant business.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on that?
It's been a long journey, long 1 year. I would say 1.5 years, the 6 months before we opened too, just trying to figure out the decor, the interior, construction. But it's been like a baby project for me. It's my heart and soul out there, something that I wanted to do and given more than 100% of what I wanted to do. And I can see the results pouring out now. The satisfaction of that whole starting something from scratch.
Right.
That
Right.
is it's really nice. It's good.
So it is your passion project. You
It
always
is.
wanted to do something like this.
So Kunal's always been in the restaurant industry back in India. He's been a businessman for all his life. But I belong to a family of businessmen, dad, Kunal, and it's just been how I've grown up. And when this thought of doing a new restaurant came up, I had a completely different idea. That's like what you were saying. We're not traditionally Indian food, but we still stick to our traditional flavors. But I wanted to go contemporary. I wanted to take it to the next level, elevate the whole experience
Right.
of Indian restaurant dining. And what I enjoyed was that I could actually convert my thought process in and execute it right,
Right.
and people can notice it. People understand that, oh, how it is different.
Right.
That's satisfying.
I definitely understand.
Thank you.
Definitely. So talking about passion, it's when you so one of the sayings that I have, right? I say everything is hard. If it was easy, everybody would do it, but we
Right.
choose our hard, right?
Right.
So you choose which hard you're gonna work on, and
Yeah.
I choose. I think I admire everyone that goes into the service industry like restaurants and events and things like that, because I do think that it has to be a labor of love. There are
Yeah.
so many different things that can go right and wrong, and there's so many different hiccups that you can go along the way, especially if you're building it out.
Right.
So what is your thought process if you were going to talk to somebody? What advice would you give to someone out there that's thinking of opening a restaurant or a bar or anything with service stuff?
Uh, I think this is the Indian culture in me talking that we love to serve food. I mean, I think every deal, every business meeting, every interaction,
We're always eating.
we're
That's true.
always eating.
And
We're
we're
so
always feeding
feeding,
people.
exactly. So I think that innate thing of feeding is what was important. I realize if you want to differentiate yourself, like customer service, you have to make sure that it is an entire experience than just providing a service.
Right.
You know, you have to be able to connect to people. I think over the past 1 year, anyone who's come in and has come back has always been like, we know who's coming back, what they ordered the last time. We try to build a
So it's
rapport with
personal
everyone.
service.
Yes.
Personal service, yes.
We make sure that people, we talk to them, we understand their choices, we explain our menu and what they like, what they don't like, we suggest accordingly. And then it's not just about the food, we talk about them
Right.
to them too. You know, it's like a nice conversation that you have with people, and people love that.
So what you're saying is that if you were going to give an advice to someone who's thinking about opening a restaurant, make sure that they're on point with their customer service.
Yes, absolutely. You have to connect with your customer because sometimes you're not going to be 100% good all the time. There could be a problem with the chef. There could be something wrong with the food. But if you have that rapport, you've built that kind of relationship with them, they'll let go of it. Like, okay, it's a one off thing, it can happen. And they'll come back. But
Right.
if you don't have that, people write you off very fast. So you have to build your customer base. You need to build that kind of relationship with them to ensure that they come back.
Because it's not that there's not going to be any problems. It's how you handle the problems. That's what
Yes.
you're saying.
Yes, exactly. Uh, we goof up, everybody goofs up, but you need to accept it, say sorry, and move on and correct it for them. Make sure they're compensated in some form or the other. It's not necessarily monetarily or through free other items, but just acknowledging and making them realize that we are taking responsibility. That's important.
Right.
That works. It goes a long way.
I agree. I don't think that's in the service industry alone.
Yeah.
I think that having the right customer service is really important. Even when we're networking, like, having that built relationship. It's about building the relationship.
Correct.
In anything you do, you should be building the relationship. And you will build wealth like that because it's the wealth of your knowledge, the wealth of the other person.
Right.
It's not, and like you said, it's not necessarily a monetary thing that people are looking at, but wealth is more than monetary,
Right.
right?
Correct.
So you're building a healthy relationships that build your
Yeah,
community.
I think
Yeah.
we're all living in a world where we're just running, running, running. We got to do this, we got to do this, we got to do this. But then that little time that you spend with people, not worrying about things to do and just having a casual conversation, those are the good moments in life now,
Right.
and people
Absolutely.
cherish it.
Yeah.
So whether it's work or outside work, you just have to have that always to be
Right.
able to uh, build a community. And I think I found you, and you've really helped me build that here. Uh, Thank you so much for that. And I think it's just, it was nice to meet you and to learn a lot about the community and to be able to understand how people around here behave and what they like, what they don't like, and just like hit it off from there.
So I've been called a whitewash Indian before. So having an Indian girlfriend is actually really nice because I grew up in the South Bronx where it was mainly Dominicans and Puerto Ricans. And most of my friends are not Indians because I did not grow up, whether it was East Indian or West Indian, I didn't
Right.
grow up among Indians. So having an Indian girlfriend is really cool because I don't think I've ever really connected other than family members or something like that, like having another Indian girlfriend.
Right.
And one that's East Indian, that's even, because we're considered non-resident Indians. And I'm like three steps removed from being a non-resident Indian. So having an East Indian girlfriend who actually grew up in India and in Bombay and knows all that culture is amazing. So I love it. I'm so happy that we connect.
I know. I love it too. I'm so glad we connected. I There are a few people who I connect so easily with, and
Agreed.
yes, I mean I know I'm in a service industry, but still, it's not the same. And the kind of
The connections are different, right?
yes, absolutely,
Yeah. So you can have a connection with a customer, you can have connection with a person, and there's even different levels of friendship. So
Yeah.
sometimes the connection takes a while, but just like I said, having an Indian girlfriend connection is priceless since I have been called the whitewashed Indian. I don't take it as an offense. It's just how, you know,
I mean, I think it's it's just a norm. I mean, it's the society. People don't like women, especially. I think it's an Indian thing. I may be offending people, but offending Indians,
she
but
promised we weren't going to be talking about this.
it's not easy for a woman to make a place for herself back in India too.
Right.
And I think it's kind of continued here in US too, which I
Yes.
did not expect, but it is a fact.
I would have to say that we are the United States of America and we've never had a woman president.
See?
Look at that.
Look at that.
So I know India has had a lot of prominent politicians
Yeah, they
that
have.
were women.
Yep.
And there are many other countries, especially in Europe, that
Yeah.
have had prominent politicians that are women. So I, as an Indian woman, that part surprises me too, that we still have not been able to get a woman president.
I wasn't thinking so big, but in general in life, I have seen that it is still tough for a woman to make a mark for herself. And for ones who are, I'm very strong willed. I mean, I may not sound very humble, but I can come out to be very overpowering and dominating sometimes. But I guess it's just my innate
Don't
nature.
apologize for that.
No, I'm not apologizing, but it's just my innate nature to just get things done.
Right.
You know, if I want to do something, if I have to achieve something, I just get it done, and it doesn't go well with a lot of people.
Yes, so that's in my journey so far, since we're talking about these journeys, in my journey so far with becoming the modern savvy CPA and having my outward personality, um, I think it's shocking to many people. I think I've always had an outward personality, but it was inside
Right.
and it came out. So it's not like my personality has changed or
Right.
anything like that. It's just that now I'm being myself.
Yeah.
And within our world, one of the things that was taught to me when I was younger is you're to be seen and not heard.
Yeah.
And I've been told by uncles and aunts and different people, well, when I ask a question, you're too inquisitive.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I've seen that world too. I grew up in the same, not my household. Luckily, my parents were never like that. My dad was very open about all of this, but I know that society. I
Yes.
grew up in the same society where a woman was just supposed to be there as a female. She had to be attractive enough to be able to find herself, like somebody should like her to be able to get married to her, which I broke that norm too. I have a love marriage. I didn't go for that. But
and let me explain what a love marriage is.
okay, yeah.
So why don't you explain what a love marriage
So
is?
back in India, it's you don't get to choose your partner. Your parents choose your partner for you. It's more about a marriage of two families than between the girl and the boy. So the parents decide. That's an arranged marriage. That's
Yes,
the concept.
that's what it's
back,
called, an arranged marriage.
An arranged marriage. But I found my love in my now husband of 15 years now. Oh, it's been a long time.
That's not a secret, Purnima.
No, but it's been a long time. I don't realize it sometimes, but yeah, that's why I'm saying I come from a time where it was not easy for women to do what they wanted to do.
Actually, arranged marriages are still something, and I'm not against an arranged marriage
No.
by all chance, because we have Tinder and all these different things that people are on, personal things. Well, let me tell you something. Indians invented that. Okay, Indians invented tender. I mean, it was probably on paper then,
Yeah.
but that's not something that's new.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not against arranged marriages.
Yeah.
They've worked for certain cultures,
Yeah.
but it was frowned upon when you found a love marriage,
Yes,
right?
it was. It was frowned upon. That society didn't agree with it. And but like I said, I like to break norms, like to do things differently.
You didn't do
And
it on purpose.
no, I mean, my parents didn't have a problem with it, but it was not like we had that kind of freedom. Like,
Right.
the society didn't have that. Girls didn't have that. They were brought up with this whole idea of, oh, you got to study, you got to learn how to cook, get married, give birth to kids, and run a household.
Yep.
That is
Absolutely.
that is how
That's it.
women were
Yes.
taught. And from there to where I am today, I couldn't be more thankful to mom and dad. And now I wouldn't say Kunal, but because we've always been on a wavelength where we couldn't care less about it. But yes, it's been a good journey with the two of us where we've done what we wanted to do, and it's still going on.
Cheers to that. I don't have my wine or
No.
her whiskey. But that's true that, so when I say you're taught to be seen and not heard, like, my dad was very progressive.
Yeah.
He was hard on us.
Mhm.
And my mom was a little more traditional, but she's gotten better. But it was our family around us
Yeah.
that was, I was in a family of 3 girls. So it was my aunts and my uncles and this person and that person, whatever. And unfortunately, my parents kind of had to care what they said because it was the community.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
they're part of the community.
Yeah.
So,
I know.
but now, I mean, I think part of my community is probably rolling over in their wherever they are when I'm so open about everything on my podcast and my social media and whatever. But one of the things that I believe is that we learn from each other,
Mhm.
and if you don't share what your wins and your losses are,
Yeah. That's
and
true.
then how are we going to be able to learn? Like,
Yeah.
why would I learned so much from everybody around me. Like, it does not matter how old they are. It does not matter if it's the chef in the kitchen or the person cleaning the floor or the CEO in the office. Every time I go out,
Yeah.
I am learning
Yeah.
so much. So sharing with people is, you just never know.
Yeah, for sure. There are times where I'm telling you, my son teaches me stuff.
Yes.
You know about it. There are times where I'll be like, this is hard. Like, I didn't expect this kind of reaction. And he'll be like, it's okay. You're doing well. So just ignore and do what you're doing right. And it'll all fall in place. And it's nice. It's just like, if a 10-year-old, 11-year-old can teach you, then anybody on this earth can teach you stuff. It's just, you need to be open to
Open.
listen to what they're saying and understand their
Absolutely.
viewpoints too, and
Right.
learn in the process.
Right. If you're a know-it-all and what does a know-it-all mean? Thinks you know everything even before it happens, then you're not going to be open to learning. And
Yeah.
it is amazing. Like, I just being even more. I've been open to learning, but I've just really opened up even more, and meeting all these different people and just
Right.
learning from everybody. It is just so amazing how much you can learn.
Yeah, I think in the past 1 year, that is one thing I realized being with the community more is that we're all in the same boat. We're all trying to learn more and try to do more than what we are doing, whether it's my restaurant, your podcast, or any other person who has another small business. We're just trying to build a community so that we can all grow together,
Right.
So we're all learning from each other. Over the past 1 year, I've made, like you said, friends at different levels, but you kind of have discussions which I don't see otherwise. I mean, it's nice to be able to talk about things and understand that everybody is going through the same thing.
Right.
It may be the specifics may be different, but the gist of the problem is still the same. We're
Exactly.
all in the same boat. That's what I like to say. And I'm glad I found this community where I can, I'm talking about the women of Wellington, where I can discuss and openly discuss what I'm going
Our
through.
girl tribe. That's what we call
Yeah.
it. Our girl tribe.
And people come back like, yeah, I have the same issue. Like, it's so annoying. And I'm like, in the same boat.
So let's talk a little bit more about when you grew up in India. You didn't just live in India, you lived somewhere else, which I was all fascinated about that. So tell
Yeah.
us more about where you lived and why you went there and that type of stuff.
I spent a year and a half in Singapore doing my master's of biomedical engineering. That was my dad, all him. He's like, just go out and see the world. You don't need to get married. You don't need to fall in this trap that the society wants you to. Just expose yourself to the. There is a lot going on outside just this society where you have to just come home, cook, and take care of family. See the world out there, and it will change your thought process. You will learn a lot more. And despite so the goal was never to build a career in Singapore, but it was just to get the experience, to understand different cultures, different types of people, the good, the bad.
What did you think of it?
I think
What do
it
you
was
think?
the biggest learning lesson I've had in life.
So explain that a little bit more.
Yeah.
So
I come from a very protected family. I was like the first person to go abroad. Like in India, you don't have kids leaving home
Right.
after school. You're staying with your parents throughout your lifetime. We have like generations of people living in the same house. So to be able to live an independent life where you're away from home, of course, it's freedom for the first time. So some people tend to misuse it. There are some people who value it. So you see all that. When you leave home, you meet so many different people, and how uh, when I was in Singapore, there were people from across the globe there.
right.
There were Indians, there were Pakistanis, there were people from Germany, Singaporeans, of course. There were people from other parts of Europe also. And we were all studying. We would party together, we would study together, we would attend lectures together. So there's a lot of interaction, there's a lot of discussions and exchange of culture, I would say. Like the conversation, like you and I clicked, but we're from different parts of the world, technically.
Right.
But
Right.
imagine doing that with people from different parts of the world. So you
Right.
learn so much, you get so much more exposure. And that's when I realized like there's a good, there's a bad, and there are people who just move on.
I like that. I
Yeah.
like that one.
That's
The
how I
good, the bad, and the ones that are just moving on.
moving on. So that's how the world is divided. That's how I tell my son. There'll be good people, there'll be bad people, and there'll be people who wouldn't care about what you're doing.
Right.
They're just
Right.
moving on.
They're
So,
indifferent. Yes.
yeah. So I realized that I need to ignore the bad, moving on, not so much, but connect more with the people who want to do good, because that's how I will grow.
Right.
You know.
Right. So in Singapore, while you were doing that, what did you think of? So the multiculturalism of your college, your
Right.
university, you liked.
Yeah.
What about the country?
Uh, country was nice. I call it my second home. Then, of course,
Right.
not.
So you did connect.
Yes, I
Yeah.
did. What I liked about Singapore is I'm from Mumbai, so I love a city. I'm a city person. It's a beautiful city, a safe city. I could be out all night. But there's still public transport. There's food available all night. People are like Monday to Thursday, they were working, working, working. Come Friday afternoon, everybody packs up and everyone is partying. Nobody cares about anything in Singapore. Friday evening, everyone is out, straight from work. That was the way it worked.
Wow. I like
Straight
that.
from
We have to
work.
visit Singapore, Chala.
I know. It was amazing. So that was Friday night. Saturday was, and we would come back Saturday morning. I mean, I'm glad mom doesn't see this podcast.
I'm sending this podcast to India to Purnima's parents, okay? So they could hear all about what she did in Singapore.
Yeah, we would come back home at 6 or 7 in the morning, have breakfast, and then go to sleep.
Yeah.
So Saturdays were spent sleeping and then doing whatever. And Sundays was when you do your laundry and prepare
get
for the
back
whole
together.
week, get back
Yeah.
together for the week. So it was amazing.
So it was like college experience except in another country.
Yes.
So because I have a son that's about to go to college
Uh-huh.
and I am actually making him go away
Yeah.
because I was not allowed to do that.
Yeah.
Right. So he's like mama's boy, grandma's boy, and he didn't want to go away. So I'm actually making him go to campus. Yes, it's going to cost me tens of thousands of dollars more, but he's going to live there for a year and see how it is. Because he went to high school during COVID. So
Yeah.
it was kind of hard. He's
Yeah.
middle school, high school for that. Those were teenage years.
Yeah.
So it's, and I know there's going to be parties, I know whatever, but I want
It's
him to
okay.
experience that because I want one of the things that we touched on but didn't actually go into here is the power of your network,
Yeah.
right? There is a saying that it's cheesy. It says your network is your net worth.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it is important that you connect. It is important that you we live in a, it's a village. It takes a village. You hear Hillary Clinton say it takes a village. Well, I truly believe it takes a village with everything. It takes a
Yeah.
village with your business. It takes a village with schooling.
Yeah.
It takes a village with your children. So, and one of the things is that you want to have a village that you have connected with.
Yeah.
You're not going to connect with every person that you see
Mhm.
or whatever, but you need to be opened to the
Right.
connection.
Yeah, for sure.
You know.
Yeah.
So that's why
Yeah.
I am making him go.
I'm telling you, he's going to learn a lot. A
Yes.
lot is an understatement because, like I said, that 1.5 year was when I learned the most.
When you learn
And
more.
that's when I realized that there is a good, there is a bad, and there are people who don't care about what you're doing. So
right.
that is an important lesson too. And plus, you're just meeting new people. I think I have a son too. He's such an introvert, but it takes him time to open up. But that's why this is important.
Right. That's you gotta
You
push
gotta,
them along. It's
Yeah.
not even forcing. I'm pushing him along because he did. I want him to. The kids these days are introverts because of,
yeah.
of the society that we live in.
Yeah.
But so I want to push him
Yeah.
towards that.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit more about business advice, right?
Mhm.
So business advice that you would give again to, so in our culture, yes, it's either you're a doctor or I don't know if we have a
Engineer.
lot of lawyers,
Engineer.
math people. Either you're a math person or you're a business person.
Yeah. I mean, either you're a doctor or an engineer, but that has changed now. I think.
Really?
Yeah.
What do you think we are now? What would you say we're promoting in our Indian culture?
In an Indian culture, I think now you do have the commerce people. That's the business people.
Yeah,
That's
well, we've always had the business people.
no,
No?
it's not when I was growing up. It was if you're intelligent, you're either a doctor or an engineer.
So because, well, I think maybe in the cities it was like that. So where my parents are from in Guyana, it was it was like a town country.
Okay.
So a lot of what they did was business like. It was entrepreneurial, right?
Right.
So because you could be an entrepreneur like herding goat or
Yeah. Yeah.
like my mom was an entrepreneur. She made coconut oil
Right.
and she sold coconut oil at the market.
Right.
So I consider her an entrepreneur. So that business sense,
Yeah.
like even little businesses in third world countries, you have your own sewing business.
Yeah.
Or you make a widget to give out.
Right.
So
Yeah.
that the immigrant entrepreneurial spirit is around.
Yeah.
I mean, I know for us Indians, but I also feel that it is there in other cultures.
Right.
That they the entrepreneur spirit, and we call it commerce and business.
Yeah.
But it could be at different levels.
Yeah, I guess you're right. I mean, I never thought of it that way because it's so common for a lot of people back home to be doing these small businesses.
You
but
don't even think of that
you
as an
don't think-
entrepreneur, right?
Exactly, right? You don't think of that.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, today if somebody has like a Indian grocery store here, it's he's an entrepreneur, he's a businessman, and he has
Right.
this. But back home, every lane has one. So it's like, oh, another store.
Yeah. Now you see, you didn't even think about it.
Yeah, it's a very interesting point. I never thought of it like this.
Yeah,
You know?
our mind is made like that.
Yeah.
That's why there are such wealthy people.
Yeah.
Indians have we have a vast amount of poverty,
Yeah.
but it's one or the other. We don't have a middle,
Yeah.
So because their mindset is to think entrepreneurial, to think
Yeah.
businessman, to think
Yeah, I
you know.
think that you're right. That this whole thing is to, it's just either you're good with, I think it's the innate goodness with numbers. That's where it starts.
all right, yeah, back to the numbers,
Back
right?
to the numbers, right? It's just what it is. And I guess that's why Indians and Chinese are doing well across the world.
Yeah, we're math people.
We're math people. I think zero was invented by an Indian, the number zero.
Oh,
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
That's trivia. See what I learned from Purnima today?
Yep. So we've been math people since centuries. I guess it's just in our genes.
I think it is in our genes.
Yeah.
That
And
because
yeah.
not all Indians, like I know some people who are not good with math, but the mass majority of them are.
Yeah.
Yeah, like me and my two sons, it's
Yeah. It's like it comes to your
It comes
kids
very
naturally,
natural.
right? Exactly.
We,
Same.
in
Yeah.
school, it was very natural.
Correct.
I was always ahead with math
Yeah.
when Americans were not doing that well,
Yeah. Yeah.
with it. So and it always came very natural to me. So
Yeah.
it's not, it's, so I can't understand it any other way.
Yeah, I
So-
know. But I think because I've been there and I've been here and I've seen the difference, it's just like back home, I think that's one of the reasons why most Indians also move out of India because the population is so much and everyone has that kind of intellectual capacity. So you're competing against each other. But when you're moving out of the country, you're moving across the globe, you're competing against not just Indians, So
Right.
you kind of have an upper edge when it comes to certain careers.
Yes, certain
certain careers.
mathematical careers.
Like certain careers. I wouldn't specify mathematical, but I think there are a lot of doctors also now moving out. But it's just
Yeah.
some careers you get that advantage.
Advantage, yeah.
So it's a plus thing.
Okay, so since we are ragging on Indians, and we're allowed because I'm a non-resident, but she was a resident. She was born there. So, what about our personalities?
Indians?
So one of the things that I have issue with is the bedside manners of Indian doctors. So I don't feel like how we talk about networking and connecting, right?
Right.
I feel like that's not something that our culture do. We don't intentionally do it, whereas other culture do it. And I think we lose out
Right.
in our culture if we don't, like my mom and dad and even my husband's side of the family, and they're all get an education. They don't want the kids to go out. They don't want the kids to do stuff. They just want them to educate, educate, educate. So
Yeah.
we believe you need to.
Yeah. There are other skills that you need to develop. I mean, there are times, I understand education is important, but then the world has changed.
The world has
world
changed.
has changed. If you want to do well in the world, there are so many other skills important that you need to learn, and which is why I kind of agree with you that it's important that we make a conscious effort when it comes to our kids that they realize that it's not just about studying. And I think
Wow, Purnima, say that again. It's not just about studying. An Indian woman who grew up in Bombay,
no, it's not.
Mumbai, is saying that it's not just about studying and education. That has to be a quote. We have to, Chala, this has to be like somewhere on the video, and
No.
she's gonna get a lot of hate mail. I'm making her nervous now.
But it is not just about studying, right?
I agree.
It is.
100%.
You have to be a rounded person. You have to be able to connect with people. You have to, and I'm not just saying studying or sport and music. Life is much bigger. There are so many other things that happen in life which are apart from just your education. Like, do you think people care about what I scored in grade 10 or grade 12 today?
If you were in India, maybe.
It didn't help me. I did score well, but it doesn't matter today. There are so many other experiences in life that happen which are more important, that teach you character building is important, You have to be able to be, like, people are not going to remember what your grades were, but people are definitely going to remember how you treated them, how you were with them. Like,
But you see that now, right? And
Yeah.
So because you grew up in India,
Yeah.
that's why I'm asking these questions, because I didn't grow up there, right?
Right.
And so I want to know how much was that emphasized
It
in the
was.
culture? Was
It
it
is.
emphasized that we needed to be more well-rounded,
uh,
or was it still like in like how the parts that my culture brought was you need to educate, educate, educate,
education.
and everything will come afterwards?
No, I think it was always education, education, education. When I was growing up, that was the culture. I agree with you. There was no denying to that.
It is the world has changed, and I realize that, and
Yeah.
we do different with our kids.
Yeah, yeah.
But even still, because my husband and I don't agree on a lot of the way that we, because he's very traditional
Mm-hmm.
with all the Indian ways. Like, why are you letting them go out? Why are you letting them do this? Why are
I
they? Why
agree.
are you sending them to away? Why are you making our son go to live on
So
campus just to party?
you won't believe it, but there is one thing that Kunal and I have always decided, and we've told our son that whatever business we build, you can't walk straight into it out of college. You
Right.
got to go out, you got to work for yourself, make a living, prove yourself before you can come back and, like, you know, take over or maybe part of what we're doing. Like, more than proving himself, I think it's about we protect our kids. Like Indian culture
Well, we think we
indirectly,
are.
like
We
indirectly.
enable them.
Yeah. We kind of overprotect them. We don't make them, we do not expose them to the 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 difficulties, the badness that's out there in the world. We don't expose them to uh, different types of people and how they should be dealing with different situations, because their life revolves just around going to school, doing their homework, and all of that as kids. So that is something that I have learned. Uh, Fortunately for me, my youngest sister is 11 years younger than me, and by the time she was growing up, the culture was changing. We could realize that, and we kind of explained it to mom, and mom understood that too. So mom changed the way things were done for her too. But it's been obviously it's been 20 years since I was in college, so I've seen that difference, and personal experiences have taught that. Going to Singapore also explained that to me. Like, there's a lot more to do in life than just study. I'm not saying studies are not important. They are.
It's a part of it,
It
but it's
is.
not everything.
It's not everything.
Yeah.
And keeping your child engaged, this is what I believe. Keeping your child engaged in all other things will not give him enough time to lose focus in life. He's studying, he's maybe doing something else, maybe there's some kind of dance class or maybe a music class or whatever. You're interacting, taking him to events, making him like work at events, even if it's just for,
Right.
you know,
Volunteerism.
volunteering, or
Mhm.
the car breaks down, just help fix the car. I
Right.
think basic
Life experience.
yes, basic
Basic life
life experiences. So it teaches them the importance of all of this. I mean, they shouldn't be growing up privileged. Like everything shouldn't just fall in their plates.
Well, that's one of the things. So one of the things that we talked about in our household was money. We talked a lot about money. Like, for example, I had to answer an article for Bankrate yesterday,
Mm-hmm.
and two questions
Mm-hmm.
on it was there was two questions. One was what should you teach your child about credit card and debt, which was a pretty, I had to think a little bit about that one.
I would like to know what you think about have to say about that so that I can teach my son that.
So that was one, and then the second question was tips on financial literacy for children.
Right.
So I had like 7 or 8 tips. I don't remember all of them that I did one, but the credit card one was a very interesting one, and because this is one that I think all of us as parents struggle with when we're and we all have different ways that we want to teach our children about money, right?
Right.
A lot of the times, a lot of the parents that sometimes I speak to parents like, oh, I don't want to bother my child with the finances of our household. They're too young for that. And then that's going to be, I'm just putting stress on them.
Yeah.
Bullshit.
Yeah.
Bullshit, bullshit,
Yep.
bullshit. You need to teach your child. You're not bothering your child. You're not, if you think of money as a stress, then they're gonna think money is a stress. So then you gotta work on your problem before you work on their problem.
Yeah.
But if you teach your child how to handle money as a tool, then they will think of money as a tool and not as a stress.
Yeah.
So that was my answer to that question was, explain to, because they think, like, a lot of the times, I don't remember if you when your kid was little, my kid used to be, oh, just swipe your card, mom. Like, so they don't understand that money is not magical.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if you don't explain to them that the swiping of the card is you telling your future self that they're gonna have to pay
Oh,
this,
yes.
right? So this is
Correct.
a promise your future self
Yeah.
you're making to your future self that you're gonna pay this. So it's not a magical thing that
Right.
you just swipe and so we cannot explain money as a dollar anymore to our children because that's not how it works.
Yeah.
Cash is going to be cashless.
Yeah. I agree. It's something that I think that's also that is a journey that I'm trying to explain to my son, and I'm going to come back to you with more tips on that because back in India, the whole credit card usage of credit cards isn't that high, and here in US, it's all about credit cards. So that shift and transition, I mean, initially, of course, we also had to figure out how it worked here, and that's something that I plan on teaching my son moving forward.
So why do you think what are your opinions on the usage of credit cards as opposed to so in India you're saying you guys use cash a lot?
Well, yeah, it was, I wouldn't say hard cash, but basically the money comes in and then you're using your money. You're not using, it's not on credit. You're not,
But the idea about responsible credit card usage, which can get lost with our culture,
Mhm.
is that if you use it correctly, it is actually a tool with a lot of superpowers.
Yeah,
So that's what I teach my kids is
yeah,
that um the usage of a credit card, if it's done properly and you guys understand the debt and credit differences, then it is a very powerful tool.
yeah. I mean, I would really, like I said, when we moved here, we had to figure that out for ourselves first. And now I think we'll have to teach my son about this because uh, he's not using money yet. I mean, he's still in middle school. He wants to buy something, he'll just come back and ask, can I get $5, $10 and stuff like that,
Right.
so he's still not reached a stage where I need to teach him that. But I guess once
It's coming.
it's coming. It
It's
is.
very soon.
It is. It's coming. I think by the time he touches to high school, it will be there. But
Oh, it's coming faster than you think. So I'll give you some lessons that I had with my kids. A
yeah,
couple of few lessons. So explaining to them the understanding of using of credit cards. I'm a big credit card proponent.
uh-huh.
I do not use a debit card
Right,
because I don't like people having access to my bank account.
right,
I also think there's fraud
yeah,
with debit cards, and when there's a fraud happen and people are able to pull a certain amount out of your account, it's not that easy to get it back. Your
right,
cash is gone,
yeah,
right? With credit cards, there's certain protections.
right,
Depending on the credit card that you use, you have additional insurance, you have other protections on it.
right,
So I like doing that. It makes me feel safer using a
yeah,
credit card to buy something that I'm not going to get scammed.
right,
And if I do, my credit card knows how to protect me to
correct,
get scammed. That's one.
yeah,
Two, I track everything I buy. So being able to track it, having the credit card is with that the tools is I can run my reports. I pull it in into my Quicken for people who don't use things like that. Your Amex runs literally many reports so you understand how you're spending.
right. That's
So
interesting. I never thought of it that way.
with my intentional money management, that's why with what I do with intent, I believe I'm not telling you not to do something or not to do. There's some things that I will tell you not to do. But I'm saying everything you do should be with intention,
Correct,
right?
right,
So the way you save should be with intention. You have to know how you're doing it, why you're doing it, and what's the purpose of it.
correct,
With the way you spend is should be with intention because in our culture today with social media and everything, we do a lot of things mindlessly without thinking it. So
yeah,
I track everything I do. I analyze what I do. So with credit cards and how I teach budgeting, I don't teach you to start a budget or put money in an envelope. I let you track your last 3 months, and then based on actual numbers is
right.
how you make your spending plan.
Wow, that's actually an amazing approach. I'm going to start doing that.
She doesn't listen to me on my podcast enough. I think Purnima's gonna have to watch me more
No,
and
I
listen
do, but it's just sometimes I mean, when you're listening, and there are more conversations
There's more conversations.
on your
Yes.
podcast, and that's the fun
I'm
part of
busting your
it.
chops. But so that's the other thing with credit cards. And then the next thing is I think the credit card can work for you. I don't like paying interest, so I pay off all my credit cards immediately. I
Yeah,
don't
before
believe
the
in
end of the
a
month.
balance at
Yeah.
all. I don't even pay off at the end of the month. I pay my credit card off. I pay my credit card every week
Oh, nice.
because I don't use cash or I don't use my bank account for spending.
Right.
I use a credit card for everyday
Yeah.
spending, and then I have one that I use for vacations and stuff like that. So that's how I work it. So I analyze what I do, and I like using a credit card to get. If I'm gonna let you use, I'm gonna spend my money on your credit card, then I gotta get something back for it. So I like the lounges, I like the rewards, I
Yeah.
like, like I like all those things. So
Yeah.
and having like with some of my credit cards, they give you protections, no questions asked. They give you additional insurance. They do this, they do that. So I think a credit card is part of your toolbox
Right.
when it comes to money.
Right.
And if you understand that,
Mm-hmm.
then it will be one of your superpower.
Yeah.
So debt, that's where we talk about bad debt and good debt. A credit card is not, I'm not telling you to use debt. I'm telling you to use a credit card as a tool.
Correct. Yeah.
So
Makes sense.
when you pay the credit card off in a week, you're not exactly using debt. You buy it today, 3 days later you pay it off.
Yeah. Totally
So
makes sense.
so that's one of the things that one of the how I answered one of those questions
Yeah.
is making sure that and then teaching kids depending on their age is equating it to. So for example, I gave an example of, if you buy a credit card this month, if you buy a game this month on a credit card and you don't pay it off immediately, you let interest accrue on it, then you're going to have to pay back that game plus some candy that you might have wanted. So if you wait, the difference between instant gratification and delayed gratification,
Mm-hmm.
right? If you wait to buy that whatever it is when you can pay it off, then you won't have to give up your candy.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can
That's a
get your candy
and your game.
and your game, right?
Yeah.
Whereas if you want instant gratification, you get the game now, but you're giving up your candy later.
Yeah. That's an amazing example.
So that was how I answered one of the questions. The other thing is when you're teaching kids about the different parts of life, and I believe my first book is going to be a children's book.
Okay.
And I even have the characters' names. I'm not going to tell you guys now. I'll tell Purnima off air, but I already have the characters' names.
I'm excited to know those names.
I've outlined the book already, but I believe that if I teach the kids, the parents will learn along
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
them.
For sure.
So
I mean, I think it brings us back to where we started, that it's a learning process for all of us
for
at
all of us.
every time, at every
So what's
point in life.
next? What is next for you on your journey?
I've been here a year. The restaurant's up and about. Hopefully, we'll just get better from here. Uh, well, I think in the next 6 months to a year, plan to now buy a home, my first house here in US, and need to do research on that. And I'm going to come back to you, and maybe we could start now. And what do you think is the real estate market looking like in South Florida today? And where do you think we're headed from here?
So real estate is always one of the things. Remember, land is an Indian thing, right? So in our nature,
Yeah.
buying land before we invest in the stock market is one of the things that we do, right?
Yeah.
That's part of our culture.
Absolutely.
right?
Yep,
Yes.
absolutely.
Goal, land, and education, right?
Yeah. Work, study hard, get some money, put it in land.
Yes.
That's what we do.
That's what we do. So
Yeah.
that in our nature, investing in our first home is a big deal. I
Yeah.
do think so far what I'm seeing in South Florida real estate is a stagnant market. I even think prices have gone down a little bit. Like
Okay.
I get emails from Zillow saying price cut, price cut, price cut. Because I think some stuff was overpriced a little bit too.
Yeah.
I also think that the cost of insurance is affecting our real estate market. So South Florida has a big problem, for those who doesn't know, that with our insurance market. We've had fraud within our insurance market. Our state government is not really, in my opinion, doing a good job in addressing the issues with insurance. Anybody ask me any questions, one of the main issues that I have with living in South Florida is insurance.
Insurance.
Yes. Homeowners,
Wow.
auto has gotten really bad, but homeowners especially. So that's one of the things. But I don't believe that you can go really wrong with investing in real estate.
Yeah.
Instead of, one of my mottos is, when you rent, you pay someone else's mortgage.
Yes.
So you either pay your mortgage or someone else's mortgage. You
Yeah.
decide. So I think that the market has stabled up a little bit. And I do think it is a good time to start looking in. And
Okay.
when you can afford to buy your own home, you should.
Okay.
Because rent, guess what? When you're paying rent, if things affect you the same way, you're paying. If the insurance goes up, your rent goes up.
Yeah.
So if there's repairs that has to, it comes on you. So the landlord is not taking a hit for what you're getting. The only difference to me, as a renter or as a homeowner, is the responsibility of a home.
Yeah.
And there are some people that says that they don't want the responsibility of a home. They don't want to have the responsibility of a home. Well, I'm sorry, that's part of adulting.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I mean, I think that's not the concern being an Indian too, because
right.
well, we a home is an asset. It may not be something that you would want to consider as a monetary asset, as a part of your wealth, but it's still an asset.
It's actually a very big part of your assets.
Yeah.
Like, one of the biggest part of Americans' net worth is their home.
Yeah.
And I think that it's become a bigger part because the real estate market has gone up so much.
Right.
The house that I live in now, it
Yeah.
has doubled in value in 5 years.
Wow. I mean,
So,
I saw that in the past year or so that the prices were just shooting up, and I was like, will I ever be able to afford a home here? It was tough, but I mean, I'm glad to know that the markets are stabilizing and
yeah,
it's gonna
I
get
do think
better.
it's stabilizing. I have not stopped investing in real estate. As a matter of fact, that I just got approved for financing for my office condo.
Oh,
So,
nice.
so
Congratulations.
thank you. And so I don't think that you should ever stop. I don't. There's no timing the market. So it's
Right.
not a right time or a wrong. If we all had a crystal ball, like I ask real estate people all the time, they're like, okay, if we could time the market, then we would be richer than anybody else. We'd be richer than God.
Yeah.
So I think that it's a good time to start looking, and it's always better to pay down your principal, pay into your mortgage. So if we're going to talk financing, I'm going to tell you a little bit more. The difference between renting and owning. So tips, guys, difference between renting and owning. Renting, if you're paying $2,500 in rent, rent goes directly to your landlord. You don't get to deduct that. It's you don't get any appreciation. It's money that goes out of your pocket into somebody else's pocket.
Right.
When you own your own home and you're paying a mortgage, let's say you're paying $2,700 for your mortgage, tax, and insurance, right? You get to deduct your taxes, your property tax on your
Hmm.
tax return. You get to deduct the interest on that mortgage on your tax
Okay.
return. And the principal that you pay down on, that's like a savings account. So let's say $200 or $300,
Right.
out of that $2,700 is going to go to principal. Let's
Right.
say 200 is going to go to principal, and 2,500 goes to the other expense.
Right.
It's just like your rent,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Plus, in addition, you get to deduct those two. You get to deduct most of that other part on your tax return.
Yeah. That's
And even if the house does not go up any,
yeah.
you're paying down your principal, so it's a savings account. You're paying down the mortgage, so it's a savings account. That's in your savings, and
Right.
then you get to deduct. So let's say the real estate market goes nowhere.
Uh-huh.
So I was giving an example, and before we end, I'll give you this example. When I bought my house in 2003 here in Florida, it was 320,000, right? When the market blew up in South Florida after 2003, 2004, it was crazy. The
Mhm.
house went up to like 620,000, 650,000. A lot of money within a couple of years.
Yeah.
Then the market bust because, all the fraud things that were happening, plus the mortgage backed securities, which we won't get into. Then that the house went down to 285,000.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So
That's
it even went lower
that's a
than what
steep
I bought
drop.
it for.
Yeah.
Yes. Because of that's when the housing bust happened.
Okay.
But if you are responsible for your own wallet, right? You're
Right.
responsible for what, your purse.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you do with your purse? My mortgage did not change. I had a fixed rate 6% mortgage, same payment. all the people's house who foreclosure, they did interest only. They bought more house than they could afford. They were irresponsible in whatever they were doing. Plus, we had irresponsibility with government and the securities and things like that. But although my price of the house went down, I could wait that out
Yeah.
because I was responsible. I was responsible for my own purse.
Right.
So my purse did not change because that's the way I proof my purse. Yes, things were happening and I had to adjust for it around me,
Right.
but there was less effect on me personally because I was able to wait it out. My mortgage, my interest, my amount of my payment did not change.
Interesting. I mean, it's quite a journey that you've had there with the housing market, but yeah, I mean, it makes total sense that it's just how you manage it out, you know.
You don't have control over a lot.
Yeah.
So you figure out what you can control
Yeah.
when it comes to your money,
Yeah.
and then everything else will have to fall in place and you can adjust for that. But if you start bitching and moaning about everything that's happening around
Correct.
you,
Yeah. That never works.
then
That never
then
works.
you're not controlling what you have.
Yeah, totally. That's true.
Well, it was nice to have you on the show.
I had a wonderful time here today. Thank you for having me on the show.
Now you're going to go back and watch all of the other podcasts.
I
You're going to
will.
listen to all the other podcasts
I will. I promise.
while
I
you're driving.
will. I promise I will.
Well, thank you so much, Purnima. I wish you good luck with the restaurant, and maybe we'll come and do like a short or something in the restaurant. Oh, we're gonna have a birthday party for me at the restaurant coming up
Yes.
with our birthday bus. So we'll have more on social media with Purnima and the restaurant. Thank you guys for listening and watching us on Get Wealthy with Me. Tune in again for another episode.